How are you? Question for you.
I heard you lost your stuff again.
Well, I have had a little credit card thing that I use just for the company stuff. Last time I know I had it, it was in Richmond. And, you know, I looked at my backpack. I don't know where it went. I don't think I'm guessing I put it someplace in the house.
Yeah, you probably show up.
We got moved, but
Normally does, but it'd take a while.
I've got, yeah, I just didn't want to wait any longer.
Yeah, just in case.
And I don't even know what else was in there. I mean, it's got some of the like sticks and Shenandoah Joes, and I keep those things in there.
Yeah.
I've got an email in here from, I tried to send this. It was too big. And all it does is buffer.
It like never go through.
And I can't get it to delete. Usually I can. And it's really, what's happening is it tries to keep on doing it.
Yeah.
So my emails will kind of blink when I'm in there because it's resetting. I don't know how to get it out of there.
You can't even open it.
No.
It's kind of weird.
Look, it sits over here buffering the whole time. And so what happens now, like if I try to send a picture or something, it won't send. I have to go back in here and it opens it up.
Yeah.
But well, Bob.
You got my update this morning?
Yeah, I did. I've already sent you back.
Chris, is that timing gonna work out? I did, that's the part I worried about, but I'm kind of, I'm walking that fine line. You guys walk every day of pushing on the rope.
Hey, what'd you do?
I don't know. Actually, it's
Well, go ahead and hit trash. Awesome. Wonder what you did.
all I did was go back and go through it again. I'm not even sure. But
And then it also has this. So obviously there's some place in settings for that, right?
yeah, that's
New phone?
No, just a problem with it. Morning, Sarah.
Good morning.
It's a Gmail. Great, what it is. Google. Give it a give. All right, I'll figure that out. That's, yeah. All right, well, at least you got that one thing done.
How are you this morning?
Cold.
I was gonna say, you have your winter coat
I
on.
do. I'm over the rain.
I don't think so.
I know.
I think we got
It's
it.
not over. I'm over it.
I think we got it for the week.
Yeah. I think you're right.
There are a couple other people here. right. I thought it would be clear, but we'll just. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
All right. I thought what we'd do again this morning is, let's see if this has got us all here. Yep. That's weird. Last week we kind of did the same thing, but I felt like we didn't quite finish. So I figured I'd do a second sort of brainstorming before we move on, because I feel like this is like really, really important in regards to the understanding, how do I engage myself? How do I get myself in the flow of what's going on in real estate? Speaking of which, when we married, Coach London is now the head coach there for football.
I'm on TV.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, I'm excited about it.
So he's a genuinely nice, quality guy.
Yeah.
I hope his football will be better.
But the thing that was really interesting is that he's hired almost all UVA people, including yesterday hired Matt Johns to be the inside wide receiver and tight ends coach, who was the quarterback here for years. And his last year, he was with Coach London and then 1 year with Bronco. He's a super kid. But the guy I'm most excited about is Ross Allen. Hired Ross who was an incredible defensive back here, professional football player. So he hired him earlier in January. And he and his wife are just awesome people. So anyway, I'm going down to teach a GRI class on March 8th down there, and I'll get together.
That's great.
Listen to those.
Yeah, I hope it'll be.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a true collegiate sport.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, they take it certainly more serious than when I was there, but it's still kept in balance with academics and. I've forgotten the history that he had with William & Mary. He started there. His first coaching job was at I
William &
didn't know. He coached for Laycock then.
Yeah, and met his wife. His wife worked in the bank across the street from the campus, and that's where they met. So anyway, the point being is, I think we're in a market that really makes us have to be intentional about where are we trying to put ourselves so that we can generate the type of business that we want to generate. And it feels like to me, and you guys tell me if you think I'm wrong, I know we didn't talk about this last time, but it feels like to me that it's almost like the Robert Frost poem, that the road here and which road am I going to take? That I forget what the poem is, but it's a famous poem where it talks about the two diverging paths. And I feel like that's what's going on, is that, we've been a certain way that we went about doing business, and there's now this diverging of paths, and one is electronic, digital. And I'm talking about like Zillow and just online stuff. I love Seville, those kinds of things. And then there's the continued relationship building, really marketing in a way that people, that you have an opportunity of really building relationships with people. And to me, it seems I can, appreciate, and let me just remind people, as we've done the last couple of times, if you're watching and you want to text a question or an idea, please do. I'm going to watch my text stream so we can do that. Neither of them are wrong, right? They're people, like if you talk to Maury or Jim McVeigh or Bird or Caroline, they've made a commitment toward Ginny. They've made a commitment toward the Zillow, Realtor.com sort of. I'm going to buy some zip codes, and I'm going to be proactive in my lead generation as far as, hey, Caroline, I'm going to be proactive and intentional. Why don't you sit over there just in case you're not in front of the camera? I'm going to have a system in place. We're talking about this whole aspect of how we generate business and the challenge of doing it right. Barb, sit right here. And I don't know if this is right, and I just want to get your opinion, all of your opinion, but I feel like there's been this road that we've gone down, and there's now this diverging of paths.
Yeah.
And there's the path toward, online digital type marketing and having a system in place that when I get that lead, I'm responding to it right away, and I've got a drip campaign, and whether I'm doing it on my own or whether I'm doing it through the Realty.com, what do we call that?
Enhanced listing?
No,
Enhanced-
Realty, 5 Street, thank you, the 5 Street where you can sign up and anything that gets sent to you, immediately has an auto text that says, hey, I got your information, I'm gonna get back to you within 15 minutes, or I'm gonna get back to you within that, whatever you can do. And then there's the relational side of generating business, of, building rapport, gaining credibility, showing people you care, and going about, let's move this way, guys, because I don't want you to be in front of that camera. Oh.
We want you in front of.
Yeah.
Not blocking.
The back of your head is really nice.
What are you trying to say,
but
Michael?
I'm just trying to say that.
To reflect. Congratulations.
Let me go.
You're
Yeah.
welcome.
Anyway,
Thank you very much.
and I think it changes for someone like Gavin, who is, we're in the resort. He's doing stuff outside the resort, but he's also doing stuff inside the resort in regards to. So anyway, the point being is, last week we talked a fair amount. Hey, Logan, let me move you around. We're trying to keep away from the camera.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. So last week, I think we had a really good conversation, and just as an example, the reason I like this, one idea that came up is this, what I call the reverse Popeye. So from a Vini standpoint, the Popeye is that we're taking something to somebody and saying, hey, thanks for your business, blah, blah. And we came up last week in regards to a reverse Popeye, and one of the ways that we came about it, and Sarah did a great job of getting with Chris, is Caitlin's Love the Puppy deal, blankets, towels, that kind of thing. We created a flyer that Sarah put out on the Facebook and said, hey, we're doing this. If you'd like for me to come by and pick up the stuff, I'm happy to. So you're offering a service, right? Instead of you going there, they're saying, hey, I've got some stuff. Yeah, that would be great. I'll leave it out on my front porch or whatever the case may be. And not to put you on the spot, you put that on about a week ago. What kind of response have you gotten from that?
I've gotten a couple.
Yeah.
I've gotten a couple.
Yeah.
And I put it on like my HOA thing. Yeah, I picked up 2 things, and I've got another person that got stuff.
Awesome. So there, she's made some connections in a different sort of way. So I was thinking about that another way, and this comes from our email yesterday. Bob was very kind to put something out about Greg Slater marketing Pearl certification. If you got an email over the weekend, it said N unit in Belvedere, Pearl certified, blah blah blah. And Bob said, why don't more people do this? And I said, because most people don't even know Pearl certification exists and that they can get their homes certified in that way. And he said, well, why don't we get them to come to Roy Wheeler? Well, I was thinking he was saying, why don't we get Pearl certification? So of course, smart ass here, emails back. Well, they were here a month ago for a business meeting, and 2 weeks ago they were here for training, which of course he was in, because I remembered it as soon as we got done, because he asked a question about Joe playing lacrosse. He said, no, why aren't we getting those agents who aren't getting trained the way we are to Roy Wheeler, so that they, can, and which was very kind, and I appreciate it, but the point of it.
Well, I thought he meant homeowners, like get them in here and
Right.
get a
Well,
presentation.
but that's where I was going with this. The reverse Popeye again, getting Chris, which I'll do, to create a flyer that said, is your home performing properly? We have a program that can help you. So it's not even about, do you want to list your house? Do you want to buy a house? But just having something in your neighborhood, going to Facebook to say, is your home performing properly? We have a program that can test that for you. Please contact me. And so they contact you. Pearl certification goes out. Hopefully, it goes well. But I think that's another thing we have to do is you have to educate them and say, look, not every house is going to fit the bill, but at least you'll know, and they'll give you some things to do that you can work on to get it there, right? So it's an education type of thing. So now you're becoming a source for the source in that situation, because they contact you, Pearl certification goes out. Good news is that it works. Bad news is it doesn't, but they tell them the things that they need to do. But you've provided them a service, right? Which hopefully gets you into a place where now you're sending them things and they see you as a realtor who's going to. Anyway, that's just an idea that I had as I thought about this morning in regards to if we can come up with something like this, like once a month, that we create a flyer that is indirectly prospecting, but it's more about information giving, that we're the company that is providing you the things, that you need. I'm not trying to I'm just trying to paint the picture. I could see Jay doing a flyer in regards to, mortgage stuff, right? Hey, did you look into a neighborhood, and I'm just talking off the top of my head here, obviously, but you look into a neighborhood and you see who has bought houses and have lived there for 20 years, right? And so you target, a flyer into there saying, you've been there a good long while, here's a couple things you might think about in regards to financing. And Jay gives you a couple things that, anyway, becoming the information giver so that they come to you, in regards to that. So let's start, if we can, talking about, and Caroline, I'll lean on you a little bit because you're doing it, okay? If we look at these two paths, there's the digital zip code buying and those kinds of things. Tell these guys why you do that. What caused you, you don't have to go into specifically, what caused you to move, and you're going down this path, you're trying to generate business, you want to do a certain amount of productivity. One of the things that you're doing is this. It's not the only thing you're doing, but one of the things you're doing is you've made this decision. Why did you make that decision?
Well,
is it okay if I put you on that spot?
Yeah, no,
Okay,
sure. I was going to interject today and yesterday because I wanted to just say it's not mutually exclusive. It's not either or.
Yeah.
For me, it's a two-pronged approach, and so I'm doing it with me, and I want to cultivate repeat and referral, absolutely. But I partnered with Jim starting in 2012, long story, and functioned as basically his assistant in a huge transition in my life, and then broke off from him last April. And I was looking at my youngest being a junior at Western, everybody else is out of the nest, and those times on the soccer field, and my husband literally had a farm outside of Rome until January of this year. So I was going back and forth, and I'm not like this networker, let's volunteer, let's join the club, let's have cocktails. I'm an extrovert, but that kind of networking just doesn't really, I'm not that good at it. So my husband was just looking, he was in marketing for 14 years, and he did some research for me, and he's kind of directed me the whole step. So I made a plunge into Zillow after interviewing Maury Atkins, because I never commit to anything on the phone, ever.
Right.
They have to be willing to send me an email. If they're not willing to do that, I'll say, have a nice day. So then I send the email to Stuart, and then most of the time, he just poo-poos everything, to be honest with you. But the other thing that I do before launching into something new is always interview someone here that's done it, like American Lifestyle Magazine was one. And I interviewed Maury probably several years ago now. We sat right in there, and I heard what he had to say, and I was like, this makes sense. And I talked to some other agents who said it really wasn't working for them. And I did the calculation, and I figured it's really percentage of market share that is the driving factor on whether or not it's successful.
We're talking about Zillow.
Zillow. That's the only thing I do, but I took a major plunge, and I've took some money out of savings to beef up my business, basically. And my husband is sort of old school, like you spend money to make money. But I just calculated for his sake and my own, the investment that I made and the closings that I had due to Zillow and the ones that are on the books that we've gotten past all the inspections, so they look like they're gonna close. And I made 2.8 times my investment in Zillow. One of those transactions was actually not a bought lead or per se, but an agent from Northern Virginia picked me. She saw I was a premier agent. She looked at my bio and my reviews. That was the one that didn't ask me for the referral fee.
Right.
And I was like, what do I do? Michael said, just don't say anything until she asks. So she looked and she just thought she would be a great fit for my clients. They wanted Grey Rock. There is, and so I hear the Buffini stuff about, online leads, but I've met the greatest people in the most interesting circumstances that are relationships for me now. One, I just got under contract and about to list their house, so that's not even in the 2.8 return. So they have revamped it, and Stuart's and I collective decision was to not just dabble, but to plunge.
And
So
don't you think,
plunged into
not
crochet, and
to
so we're
cut
always
you off,
jockeying
but don't
for
you think
position.
don't you think that's the key to it? That the dabbling really, you don't.
Doesn't work.
Right.
Ryan, who is meeting, he's flying out from Denver to meet with different agents around here. We're meeting next Wednesday, which the customer service by them is unbelievable. At least with Ryan, the guy before wasn't so hot, but I put him on speaker whenever I'm doing home office work, and Stuart's like, man, that guy really knows what he's doing. So he's coming here from Denver next Wednesday. But he said basically you've got to be,
That's interesting because
Above-
Maury's person's coming here Wednesday as well.
it might be Ryan.
No, it's a woman. I think it's a woman. Anyway, she's going to be here for the business meeting on Wednesday at 10 o'clock. Maury asked her would she be willing to come in and talk at the beginning of our business meeting and stay afterwards to talk to people. So next Wednesday, Zillow representatives will be here.
Oh, Ryan will be here at 11. I
Oh,
didn't
that's
put
awesome.
that together.
Yeah, I didn't either.
He had told me when I was thinking about spending more money, I ended up spending more money in Crozet for the spring instead of going into some of the other zip codes where the dollars just wouldn't bring me very far. And
Christine.
there's no real algorithm, but he said you need to be at 20 or 30% of the market share to even make it worth your while. So I'm so competitive, I get on there periodically and see if I can't get above Denise Rainey. And so I've been in the top 3 in Crozet since I started. And I think it was just a commitment that I made, but it's been very rewarding, not just financially, but the people that I met. It's staggering to me the number of people that are not associated with a realtor at all, that are ready, willing, and then I find out if they're able. And now I'm doing buyer brokers all the time now. I was a little old school there for a while. The couple I met on Zillow last October were my guinea pigs. Took them out all day. I did the dating thing and I explained buyer brokerage right here, took them out and said, if you think I'm the right fit, I'd like to formalize our relationship going forward. And we drive up to the guest parking and they said, would you have some paperwork for us to sign? And I was like, oh yes, indeed.
Yes, I do.
Ever since then, I haven't kind of gone, whoop. But it's amazing, you can establish trust and relationships that I deem to be hopefully lifelong, and will have their listing hopefully when.
Hang on a second, Bob.
Well, the question, I listened to more, who was the gentleman?
Lauren.
And I thought it sounded very effective. What I guess, and you've talked about it before, and you're very enthusiastic, and it sounds, like a great idea. What I don't understand, and what I guess I'm looking for Michael, is if you look to the top
Michael looks behind you.
25 agents at Roy Wheeler, and when I say top, producers on some level, volume, numbers, whatever, or within the marketplace, do we know what paths they're taking? I mean, is this like, hey, electronic is the way to go. 18 of the 25 are heavily focused on buying ads through Zillow. Or do we know that information? Because I know there's individuals, you being included, that are having great success.
As I started this class this morning, I think there are only about 5 people in our company that really have dived in to this. Because, and part of the reason is the way that I counsel people. When they say, I'm gonna buy some, I'm gonna spend this much money, as soon as I said, don't waste your time. Because if you're only in this percentage, you're gonna get eaten up by the bigger percentage, okay? I will say this, in what I know, in looking around our marketplace, I think it's a hybrid. I think I would confirm with what Caroline said. Now, Maury I think Maury's is a hybrid as well, because Maury knows so many people out in the Louisa Orange area and built such a relationship with those people that he gets referral business, right? The key to this, in my opinion, and we'll go to the right side here in a minute, but the key to this is what Caroline just said. She's met so many nice people. The key is that Caroline has got a situation where she's building a rapport with those people. She's gaining credibility with those people. She's shown them that she cares, and so they end up working with her. And she does such a great job that now she's on the referral side of it because they were happy. So if they have somebody else that they know, they're going to refer. That's to me the key. The left side, in my opinion, the left side of this road that we're talking about is all about lead generation. Okay, the right side, relational, is all about putting myself in positions where I get the opportunity to have people refer me, whatever. It could be over here with the lead, with the Zillow, Realtor.com, that kind of thing, and the percentage, the number that I get, the percentage that actually turn into something, but it goes back to the Realtor food chain I talk about, right? You got the food chain of suspects turning to prospects, turning to customers, signing the paperwork, becoming buyers, clients, buyers and sellers, ultimately buying something and dollars earned. And the key to long term, and where I'm answering your question, the really successful people in the business is the dollars earned. You don't go all the way back to suspect anymore. You got dollars earned, and now you're going right to the customer or even the client because somebody's saying, Sarah did such a great job, you've got to work with her. So they call up and say, hey Sarah, my friend says I got to work with you, right? Or parents, she's working with a guy that I went to college with, who's her father said, he's moving here, you got to work with so you don't have to go back to suspect with that. See what I'm saying? You are the credibility gets already established when somebody refers you, right? But the key is, I got to get to the place, and this is where it goes exponentially. I got to get to the place where people are constantly referring me, which I think ultimately means I don't have to spend the money over here anymore, because my business plan. I'm going to speak tomorrow. I got asked to speak. I'm on the Feeney Broker Advisory Council, which I feel very privileged to have been asked to do that. Most of the folks are big companies and whatever. And I'm one of 4 people that are on this conference call talking about our value proposition at Roy Wheeler. And one of the first things I'm going to say is that one of our things that we really communicate to the agents is it's your business to run your way. This is not a my way or the highway kind of thing. You don't have to do this, this, and this to work at Roy Wheeler. It's about you're walking through the door and you're giving us the privilege of opening up your business under our umbrella. And therefore, how do we help Caroline do what she's doing, help Gavin do it in different ways? That it doesn't all fit together, right? But the other thing is this whole aspect of trying to make sure that we give everybody the information they need to make a decision as to how they want their business to look, right? And putting wind beneath the wings or whatever you want to say. So anyway, the point I'm making in regards to what you say, if you look at the numbers, if you look at, like for instance, the Jim Faulkner, Stephen Clinton, my guess is they're not doing any of that. It's all sphere of influence networking for them. Denise, use Denise as example.
She's consistent.
She does it, but she also does geographic farming,
Oh, yeah.
right?
She does everything.
Right, I mean, she's got this thing where she is, she knows how much money she can make, and it puts X amount into marketing, and she's got people that are working with her and that kind of thing. But to me, if I went through, it would be a hybrid situation where the people that really are long-term successful, the people are doing both. And both initially to get going, the first 2 or 3 years, to really get my pipeline going so that I end up over on the right side of the road, if you will. I'm just building those relationships. They're my sphere of influence. And that's where the Buffini thing comes in. Who are my A+ people? Who are, and I'm building and having them bringing business back. So at some point, Pat Flynn, here a couple of weeks ago, talking about how to be great with your money. What did he talk about? He talked about the fact that every year he sits down with his administrative person, said, where do we spend our money? What worked, what didn't work? What can we cut out? And where do we need to take that money and put it someplace else? I think that's a great example. What we're talking about here is that if I get to a certain place and my goal is to do $6 million a year or whatever, and I can do $6 million a year without having to pay $500-600 a month or whatever it is to Zillow, holy moly, that's, and I can invest that money into the people. I can do my client appreciation party, or I can do, whatever. You follow what I'm saying? I think it's understanding where you want your business to come from and what works for you. I think, again, the left side, you've got to have a system in place. When those leads come in, you're responding. I know Maury said that, it's changed now that you're competing, right? The phone rings, at least in his situation, the phone rings and whoever answers it first gets the lead. In what he was talking to me in regards to the way they set up. So there might be 3 agents that, Zillow's trying to place the lead that they've qualified. And the first agent that gets it, and Maury's figured it out. He's got a situation where he's got a couple other agents. And all 3 of them, the phone rings. And the way he's got it set up, whoever answers it is the one who gets to get that lead, and then they pay Maury a referral. And I mean, he's got that all, worked out. So the question is, hopefully we've discussed that. So let's move to the right side. Let's say we don't have the money not to dabble. So we're not going to, do that right now. We're going to try to do this over here so we can generate enough revenue so that maybe then I jump into that. What things are you doing? What things can, ideas do you have in regards to generating the leads? I mean, one of these things is the reverse pop-by we just talked about. I think is a great thing, and we're going to help you with that. I've even made a note here that the next one we'll do is that Pearl certification one. We'll help create that, so you don't have to create it. And then it's just a matter of you. Facebook, great example right now. Some of you have already done it. Data Progress, Reader's Choice. There's an opportunity for us to be seen as the #1 real estate company. And it's all just people voting. But who cares? If we as agents can market the fact that I'm with the company that is the Reader's Choice, Data Progress, Reader's Choice. So we sent that out yesterday. Asked you to share on your Facebook page. Ask your friends to share on their Facebook page. That's what's going to make it happen. Is we have enough friends that are willing to go in and click nominate. I don't care if they don't nominate any other business in Charlottesville. And that's what's cool about this one is it literally is just click nominate Roy Wheeler. You have to go in and find Roy Wheeler and stuff. They've made it easier, at least for the nomination. And then after that, the companies that make the final cut, they do the different thing. But again, that's another example of something that we're doing to try to help you have a reason to promote. Sarah does a great job, in my opinion, of finding things on Facebook to post and driving people to her Facebook page. And the way it's set up, I like is that, the first thing is about, see my listings or see my testimonials or whatever. That's the first thing when you go to her Facebook page, that's the first thing you see. But then you scroll down, it talks about whatever it is that she's found to, put out there. That's driving people there. But how are you, outside of the electronic, what thoughts do you have, or what things are you doing to be in contact, and trying to generate new business without spending the kind of money you need to spend digitally? What things jump into your head?
The rate of return isn't the greatest, but a couple of years ago, I got a listing, and I'm gonna get another one at the Wintergreen. One was in Charlottesville and Fry Spring, and another was at Wintergreen now. And the gentleman at Wintergreen, he told me, he's an old salty guy, so no nonsense. And he said, the only reason I'm calling you is because you actually sent me a letter. I haven't seen anybody at Wintergreen do this in 20 years.
So the letter stating,
I took a listing, and then I just sent like what's the 5-5-10
Right.
kind of that thing.
Yep.
I just picked neighbors in the general vicinity and wrote a letter just saying, we have a house here. Maybe your friends and family would want to be your neighbors up here at the resorts. If you have any interest, if you have any friends who are interested in this house, let me know. And so the guy called, and he's owned the house for 30 years, and he said, it's time for me to step out. He's up in Northern Virginia somewhere, and he's like, I'm done. So he's working on getting the place ready. So letters actually do work.
Yep.
And I got another listing from, it was in Fry Spring a couple of years ago, and just from letters. So the return is not, you're going to send out 100 letters and maybe get one phone call. It's not going to be great,
but again,
100 letters, that's $50.
Yeah.
Plus your time.
And the Fry Spring listing
Maybe
was
the
a
print, but
$230,000 sale. So that, more than covered, everything like that.
well, and I can tell you that because, I work with different agents, there are a number of agents that are sending letters out and they're having tremendous success with the response. Steve White sent one out a month or so ago. I think he's gotten 5 listing appointments off that one letter. Yeah. And it was just write this down for next time, but it was uncanny. I hadn't thought about it before, but he sent it out so it came at the exact same time people got their assessments.
Yeah.
And it was about land because that's what he focuses in on and stuff. But that was a great idea. It was when they got the assessments, they got this letter. So absentee owner, whatever the case may be. And then, so there's that kind, and then there's the type of letter that you send that says, maybe not you individually, but we as a company have a buyer that's looking in this area for this type of property. If you're thinking about selling, please contact me. So, daily memo or however you want to do it, reach out to some agents and say, do you have look at the hot sheet, know what's going on. But find somebody that has somebody that's looking for something. I saw it, or again, be part of the conversation. Yesterday on Facebook, I don't know if you noticed or not, it was a promotion for Nest, but Arlene Yobs posted, I spent all weekend looking for homes for 3 buyers. If you're thinking about listing your home, please contact us. Well, there's no reason why you can't say there are buyers looking in your neighborhood because you know that Arlene has 3 buyers. Or you get an email that somebody says, I'm looking for this. So you send a letter into that type of neighborhood or that type of price range and say, I know for a fact that there are buyers looking for a property like this. Please contact me. And then what you would do is if you contact you would say, I heard about it here and here, and the first people I'm going to call is I'm going to call Arlene, and I'm going to call this person, I'm going to call this person because they have the, or I'm going to call Gavin in my office because he said I'm looking for this. And it just is a reason for sending it out. It's not just, I've got a listing. If you know somebody wanting to move into the neighborhood. If you've taken my Maximize the Open House class, this is a key part of it. And you can go into the roadmap for success in the Dropbox and find the information about maximizing open house. But one of the things I talk about is don't think that you're just marketing to buyers. You should be marketing to sellers for other listings with that open house. You should do the 5-5-10 scenario, or like we talked about last week, you should be previewing the houses that you think are in competition with that open house. And then take the time to just knock on a few doors and say, hey, I'm Gavin Sherwood. I've got a listing across the street. I'm going to be holding it open. I want to see what your neighbor's house looked like. How do you like living here? Just a nice, well, it's been great. How long have you been here? I've been in 3 months. Oh, great. So you is this your first home that you bought? Oh, I'm not buying, I'm renting. Well, now I've got somebody that I can add into my database and hopefully 9 months from now, help them buy something. Or, yeah, I've lived here forever. I don't see myself moving. I totally get that. But you know what? If you've lived here forever, you might know people who might want to live in this neighborhood. I'd love for you to give them this flyer and have them stop by. You know, there's all sorts of different things to target, not in an untruthful way. I mean, there are people that, you know, do it unethically that they, you know, they communicate something that's not really true. They're just trying to get. But I'm talking about real life. You know for a fact that people are looking in this particular, whether it's a regular agent or not, it doesn't matter. That's what's cool about Facebook is you're part of the conversation. You're seeing those things out there, and you use those to say, you know, I know other agents in Charlottesville. They've sent me, you know, emails or they've posted something on Facebook that they have buyers in this price range. So if you're thinking about selling, we'd love the opportunity to work with you. Other things, other thoughts that you have, things that you're doing or that are percolating that you want to do.
Well, are you okay with this one tonight?
Go ahead.
I will say so I have to give Brian credit actually since he created the website. But whenever a lead comes in through the website, he was a tremendous business person. And he had a section in it, like you had mentioned, how many leads come in where they state they're not working with an agent. I would say it's probably 95% of anybody who visits the site, they check no. So it's very true that most of the people are not. So when you see those, obviously those are some of the first ones you go after.
Yeah, I met some people at a house in Jose. They had just bought less than a year ago, and they couldn't remember the regions.
That's the
Yeah.
other thing, like stay
And I
in
was
touch
like-
with people.
Well, and then look at Montana people are coming. They're going to be doing like a hunting fishing lodge up out of my market area, and I'm working with them anyway because I showed him $1.7 to 2.4. He had contacted me off of Zillow last winter. Things changed in their family situation. I just stayed in touch, and he called me. And so we're going out not this weekend, but next weekend.
I'm not that familiar with the Zillow stuff. Are you on the low, mid, high level of their services, would you say? Based on that rate of return that you?
Yeah, I try to maintain like the top 3 positioning Crozet,
So
but I
that's-
don't do any other.
That's one of the more expensive plans that I'm assuming. It's not bottom basement.
Well, they don't have
Yeah.
any sort of levels anymore. You
Oh,
just
okay.
have to spend $1,000 to get the concierge
Yep.
service, and they changed their whole thing.
Yeah.
And to piggyback on what you were saying, I was just listening to the Buffini podcast on manners, which I'm going to send to my children, to say, look, this is why I hammered this. It's a podcast called Manners Maketh Money. But one thing I haven't finished it, but right before turning in, he said, it has never been easier to stand out as a business person, as a human, than right now. Letters are so, now it's probably like, oh my gosh, something to open that's not a bill.
Just
Or it's not an email, or
sign every single one of them.
like the pet peeve of mine is whether I'm talking to another agent, a client, my children, I take every text completely seriously. Capitalization, punctuation, good manners, and that's just a pet peeve of mine, but it's an indication of the fact that you're taking this communication seriously and you're important to me. And so I'm not just firing it off, but I'm piggybacking on what you said because I think letters are now like,
And they're cheap.
yeah, it used, Jim still, he still does that, and he got a listing on Field Road because after we sold Westview, directly from, it was a $700,000 check.
And the CRS makes it a lot easier now, so you don't have to go to the GIS
Exactly.
and find every single neighbor's address and name.
Oh, through Paragon, you mean?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
your-
yeah.
Just
I
the
noticed that.
labels,
Yeah.
yeah, just so, yeah, too.
Well, I know Bird, I mean, that, if she was here, you know, it's still about personal contact and letters and, you know, those kind of things, and very persnickety about the way it looks and those kind of things. And I think I think you're really right. And we've been talking about that, if you think about it, we've been talking about that for, close to a year now, about the fact that the digital has actually brought back the old-fashioned way of marketing. You know, the geographic farming of actually sending something in and them getting something in their mailbox versus they're being inundated in their inbox that they don't have time to even look at it, but if it's in their mailbox, even if, and this, I mean, this is 35 years of training now from when I was very successful in my geographic farming and in that training, my point was even if it went from here to the trash can, it still was here in front of them into the trash can. Whereas in your email box, it's either unread and at some point you click delete all unread emails. And so you never see it, right? Or you just delete it before, oh, there's another one. So, unless you're, again, going back to what we've talked about before between passive and active, I don't give a rip about real estate, so I'm just gonna delete that. Passive, I'm thinking about something, might look at it, but man, when that switch flips, and I go from passive to active, yes, I'm ready to sell my home, or yes, I'm ready to buy a home. Well, now those things become, I'm noticing them again. And the example I always use in that situation is you buy a car and you think you've got this special color that is different than anything, and then you buy the car and you're driving down the road and you see 5 of them in the first 30 minutes because it's now, you just hadn't seen it before because you weren't looking for it, right? I mean, it's this mental thing. So again, this whole aspect of something in your mailbox. And I think it's one of the reasons why we have such a great success rate in the customer satisfaction surveys we get back, because we still send them a self-addressed, stamped envelope to send it back in. Now we've added the Zillow and the Realtor.com testimonial part so they can go online and do that because we know that's important. But it's unbelievable how, when I tell other companies how many, oh, why do you do that? Blah, blah. I say, well, because we get, well, how many get back? Well, we probably get about 50% of them. You get what? You get 50% of those surveys back? Yeah. And so, they're like 10 or 12%. And I said, what do you do? I said, well, we actually self-addressed stamped envelope.
Well, the fry spring listing I told you about a few years ago, that was when I first started, had no business. I was like, what do I do with my day? Okay, I'm going to write letters. I started on my birthday in November. In December, I sent out this letter. You know when the guy called me back? August.
So he hung on to that
He
letter.
said
for
he
9
put it
months.
on. He said he put it. I mean, it was an older couple, so everything had to occur via fax.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh crap! I guess I'm spending a lot of time at the office now. But he said he stuck it on his refrigerator, and it sat there for 8 months.
Wow.
And then he decided him and his wife said it's time to sell, and they called me.
So
it's tangible.
that goes a different, takes us in a different direction too, in regards to the right side of the road, if you will. So important to be in the conversation, Facebook, wherever, but also in the local newspapers. One of the reasons I still get the daily progress delivered to my house is because I go page by page to just see if there's anything in there about somebody that I know. And if there is, depending on how I know them, I either send them an email or I send them a personal note congratulating them or saying I'm so sorry, whatever. And the whole point of this is that I see a friend of mine's son make all district, whatever, debate, corral, whatever. They get a note from them, dear such, the kid gets a note, dear such and such, congratulations, son, you made first team, all blah, blah, blah. I bet your parents are, proud of you and you should be happy that your hard work is paid off or whatever. Well, I'll tell you a funny story. My youngest brother's son would go out to Inverness every summer and do this golf camp and manners, right? Meg and Dick would say, look, you need to be looking everybody in the eye, shaking their hand, blah, blah. And about 4 days into this week, people, were giving him golf balls or giving him a golf glove or whatever. But 4 days into the week, he went to his Aunt Meg, my sister, and said, Meg, this shaking hands and looking at people's eyes is money. Because he saw the result. I mean, he saw the result of doing it and having this positive feedback from it. And so the point being is I send this note, and what ends up happening is most times the parents get it first. And they look at it and say, hey, Johnny, look at this. And it goes up on a bulletin board or on the refrigerator for a certain amount of time. And so every time they open that, they're reminded, wasn't that nice of Mr. Guthrie to do that? Now, I hope I do it because it's the right thing to do and it's the way I think God wants me to live my life. But it's also money, right? It's a great business practice that absolutely works. And some of you have heard me tell this story about, that movie Animal House. And I was on Young Life staff at that point, working with high school kids, right? Dottie and I were just barely married. We took one of the key kids and his girlfriend to that movie on a double date. I had no idea what that movie was. We got in that movie about 20 minutes and I said, what have we done? And we used it as a teaching moment.
Oh my gosh.
But it was really embarrassing. I mean, my face was dim and whatever. But there's that part of the story where the fraternity brother is, woman's incapacitated, and it's not funny, especially these days. And he's got the angel on one shoulder and the devil on the other, and the angel's saying, no, and the angel's saying, and the devil's saying, what? I feel like that's true about the way I go about doing my business. Because I know I'm doing what I think God would want me to do, but the devil's over here, you're just doing this for business. You're just doing it because it's money, right? Whereas, no, you're caring for people. You're letting them know, that they're known and cared for. And that's the, point I want to make here is more that we can make people feel known and cared for, the better chance we have of them reaching out to us, especially if we also communicate by these reverse Popeye type of things, that we know the business, that we're giving them information that's going to help them. There's a much better chance that when they go from passive to active, they're going to say, I got to call Logan, and get more information about this or whatever. So this whole thing about the letter is so important because I think the digital world that we live in has made it special again. Think about your birthday. You used to get birthday cards. Now, I get a few, and in our family it's a tradition when birthday cards go up on the mantle and they stay out there for, whatever. Well, it used to be, that it got cluttered. Well, now you got like 3 or 4 because somebody sent you, what's the woman that does the jingle emails and the picture and hit the dog, puts the ornament on the tree, and Jackie, whatever her name, Jackie Lawson. Yeah. And they're nice, but they're.
They don't go on the mantle.
They don't go on the mantle. They don't go on the mantle.
I can tell you, I will offer this. I haven't done business, so I don't have a lot to offer this through. But you had mentioned that didn't know the agent's name. So Mike Flecker and I are doing some prospecting, and we ran into an expired listing that we pursued. And Mike actually had the conversation, and we left a message when we were working, but she called him back. He called me. He said, that person called and they're going to relist. I said, okay, I got you. And he said, they don't know their name. I mean, this woman, she said, we're going to relist with the agent, but she couldn't remember the agent's name. And so the one takeaway, I guess, is, it's, oh, wow, that's frustrating. We're competing for business that people, but my takeaway, and I share that with you really in response to why do we do this stuff, is this poor woman is working with someone who is so lacking in effort and personality that she can't remember their name. Don't they deserve better than that? That was my takeaway, is they deserve a more effective promoter, at least self-promote, right? And they can't self-promote better than that.
And luckily it makes it real, that happens so much. It makes it really easy to, I think, for us to stand out just by keeping in touch.
Well, and I think the other thing that Bob is just saying there is whether you're brand new or not, that client deserves the kind of service that you're going to provide for them. Logan, you can provide the same service that somebody who's been in business 20 years. In fact, you can provide better service, and the testimonials that you've gotten already show that. Logan, patting her on the back, testimonial. You would have thought she'd been in business 15 years by what this person wrote to her, and it was your first listing, right? Yeah. That's incredible, but it's because she wanted to do it right. Whereas you can't, but the scary thing is that people are going to relist with, they can't even remember the person's name. How much contact have they had with the person? People, this is really important, especially on the right side of the road. People are going to make a decision with their heart rather than their head, more often than not. People are going to make a decision with their heart rather than their head. What I mean by that is if they like you, then even though you may not have any track record, even though you are working a full-time job someplace and you live down the street from, oh my God, she's my neighbor. No, you don't. If she's not a viable realtor, now it's hard to have that conversation. You're not trying to be disparaging, but to be able to ask some questions. Well, is that person full-time? Are they going to be able to give blah, 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 such and such and such? Because the bottom line is people will make a decision with their heart rather than their head. Oh, it's my brother-in-law, so therefore it's going to cause problems in the family. Well, some of those things you can't get out of, except for if you build relationship with them, gain credibility with them, show them care, and they make the mistake. In this situation, she's made the mistake a second time. If that listing expires again, there's a very good chance that we've run this note afterwards and stuff that they're going to say, you know what, you were right. It isn't good. We need to make a change, and can we talk? You're right. My brother-in-law just doesn't have the time to do this. And anyway, the point being is that what we've got to do is we've got to put ourselves in a position where we know our stuff, we're knowledgeable, we're credible, but we also are good people. So when you walk out of that room after meeting with them, they turn to each other and say, I really liked her. I really liked him. I think I could work with them, because the hard part of this is really important. And that's where we've got to really do our work in building those relationships. And I guess kind of coming full circle, when we get to a place where our pipeline, we've got enough people in our sphere of influence that are referring business to us, then more of our dollars need to be spent there to make sure that we stay forefront with them, right? Versus over here trying to find new people to build relationships with. Sure, one of the reasons that we're friends, and I've done a lot for him, but I know that Pat Flynn came down here to do that, hoping that at some point, if you have people that are looking in Northern Virginia, you would think about referring it to him because of the information he gave you and the help he provided, blah, blah, blah. And vice versa. One of the reasons I travel around the state and teach is for that reason. I want to be seen as knowledgeable. I want to be seen as a good instructor. And I want to be on the forefront so that all these agents around the state, when they have somebody that's looking to buy in Charlottesville, they're going to contact me. I'll give you another example of this whole aspect. Somebody from one of the local networks texted me and said, hey, this is confidential, I'm moving out of the area, I need to sell my house, can you refer me to a good agent? I referred him to an agent in the company, thanking him very much for thinking of me, trust, blah, blah, blah. Agent felt like did a great job, got follow back up from the person saying, she was amazing, thank you so much. And then didn't hear anything. Well, of course, you start worrying about that. So you text something, hey, did everything go okay? Didn't hear anything. Okay, here we go. Text again yesterday. Well, sure enough, they went the easy route. They had an agent whose husband had some connection with the TV network. And so they, rightfully so, they talked to more than one person. But it was easier because he was moving and his wife sort of already had some sort of relationship. They made a decision with their heart rather than head. I think they made the wrong decision. Not that the agent they chose isn't a good agent. She is, but she doesn't know the market where this person lives. And I think they're not going to, I just don't think it's going to work. And hopefully we'll get it back later. But the point being is we couldn't have done anything more than we did. We just didn't have the inside track. And at the end of the day, the inside track won in that situation because he was already have to be someplace on March 4th. So he's already, and so he, went the path of least resistance. And again, the reason I bring that up is just the whole relationship building. The more the relationships we can build, when people know of people, and this is the other thing on the right side of the road. Most people don't think about referring. I mean, think about how many people you've talked to who their brother has moved here or a fraternity brother has moved here or whatever, and they forget, oh, I guess I should have them call you before they just start looking around. Yeah, I guess you should have. Right? But my bad, the fact that I wasn't forefront for whatever reason, in regards to that sphere of influence, I wasn't forefront for that person to call me and say, such and such. Anyway.
The fact is, it's not an easy decision for the consumer. You know, they may buy and sell 2 or 3 houses in their lifetime. They really, you know, they're making a decision about who to list with, or where to buy, and they really have no background. And so whether they pick you or they pick the agent they can't remember the name, it's, you know, that's kind of on us to solve for them, because it's, again, they're only gonna do it a couple times in their life. And the chance of them making the right decision is not great. They're smart people, but the fact is, they're gonna decide, you know, Cousin Louie, the part-time agent, and they're not gonna understand the implications. To them, they're really not.
Well, a good example of why we need to, why it's so important to manage these things in a worst case scenario. So when we do get the opportunity and to be there, that we're getting, even if it's long term, we're getting something in writing, so that Uncle Louie doesn't come in after the fact and say, oh, you're thinking about selling your house, use me. Oh, well, I've already signed something. Sarah and I had this conversation the other night. I was going through the listing agreements and contracts and stuff, and I texted her and said, hey, Sarah, give me a call. And I thought she left the commission out of the paragraph, you know, that it was zeros, the 3% was over here. But as I was flipping through, the 6 was on the right side of the page, so I just missed it. It was a blank. And she goes, oh my gosh, I left that out? And I said, yeah. And then I turned over and said, oh wait, my bad, it is here. She goes, okay, good. But it's a long-term scenario. Good for her. Probably not gonna list till April, but she got it in writing. You know, she's got it in writing that, you know, you're my agent. We're gonna figure out, we're gonna watch the market, because there's a lot of things going on before we put a price in, you know, range, blah, blah. So she did it absolutely right. And so many times we don't, we just trust the people that they're gonna list with us. And the next thing you know, we get that phone call that says, oh, I forgot that Uncle Louie's in the business, and I was at a family reunion, and, you know, I can't, I can't, mess up the family by that. So you're right, it's really hard.
Yeah, I mean, it's not fault. I'm saying people are smart.
Right.
You talk to people, and particularly in our community, they're associated with UVA, they're uber smart. But that doesn't mean they've done real estate more than once or twice in their life.
That's right.
And pick what you do. How do you decide a mechanic? You know, how do people decide on a dentist? I mean, again, it's very happenstance. And I think recognizing that, I guess my point is, it's kind of incumbent upon us, if we think we have something to offer, to get out and promote ourselves.
Be intentional, get outside your comfort zone. You need to promote yourself. I mean, that's one of the things we talked about in the person promotion class. It's not comfortable to do that. But it can be done in a classy way. You know, it's just, but it's important. It's important. Like, for example, you know, I enjoy teaching. I know that there are a lot of choices of associations in regards to who they pick for teaching their GRI classes. So I'm really intentional about it. I'm building relationships with the education people in each association. You know, on personal note, thank you so much for letting me teach. The room was set up perfectly, you know, blah, blah, blah. Oh, and by the way, they don't see them, but oh, by the way, you know, really happy that the evaluations came back, you know, with mostly 10s or whatever the case may be. Because I want to build that credibility with them so that when they're ready to do the next one, you know, they're there. Example with Williamsburg, it was set up for the Friday after the legislative conference, and the numbers were not where they wanted to be. So I emailed and I said, Rita, why don't we postpone this for a month and let people get out of the legislative conference? They're not coming back for a third day out of the office, kind of thing. And I'll help. And so, you know, I talked about it with people at the legislative conference, and then I asked her to send me a flyer. I posted on Facebook. A lot of you have seen that. Well, the numbers have, you know, gone up significantly. So I wrote an email to her yesterday saying, hey, I just want to let you know I talked to some people at the legislative conference and posted it on Facebook. And I think you should have several more registrations here in the last couple of days. I haven't heard from her today yet. But the point being is, she knows I'm out there helping her do her job in getting people into that class. So hopefully the next time when they want to teach a class, they're going to say, well, you know, he doesn't want to teach, but he's willing to help promote it, right? Those are the kind of things that I think we need to put ourselves in a position that, you know, how can we help? Another thing, and all sorts of things we can talk about, is people that you know that are in some sort of human resources in companies. Go meet with them, talk with them, say, how can I help you? If you've got somebody coming in for any type of job, I'd be happy to do an area tour for you. I'm happy to help them find a rental, put them in the right places to find the right place, find out what their favorite Starbucks drink is, and a month later drop in and say, hey, I know that you'd like to have a chai tea latte in the middle of the afternoon. I just thought I'd bring it into you. And, there are just all sorts of different things that we can do, to build those kind of relationships so that those people think about us when it comes to people they know getting ready to do something. So.
I had a neat thing last week. One of my closings last summer had come via an email to our church, and I've gotten to be pretty good friends with the receptionist who sits next to me in choir. So she forwarded the email to me, and even got Sarah in on this, because when they were coming to town, I was out of town. But they, so Yolanda at church and Maria, the ones who moved here, had never
Don't be
met.
telling them Yolanda's name.
Yeah.
That's your referrals. I'm kidding.
They
What's her
had
last
not
name?
ever,
What's
they
her-
had not ever met.
What's her phone number?
And Maria had called the church numerous times asking about what's a good doctor, dentist, where is such and such. So Yolanda had become her source.
She's become the source of the source.
Right. But they hadn't met, actually, because it's a big church, and to connect them at the right service at the right moment. So we arranged a luncheon. We met out at Timberwood Tap House last Thursday for lunch, and they finally got to meet face to face, and we had the best time. And Maria's already been, telling other people, oh, you gotta have Barb help you find a house. But each of them, just the fact that now they know each other more personally than just the phone call away.
Yep.
And so that was really good.
Good stuff.
Both B plus referral.
All right. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate it.
you.
Yeah. Hope Payne's here tomorrow for legal update at 11. And then I'm teaching fair housing on Thursday. It's a 2-hour CE and PLE class.
You're sure about that part? Because I get confused. So
2 hours.
I'll
I checked
make
it.
sure I find
Yeah,
out.
2 hours. It
I'll come
has
in
to be
for that.
2 hours of it.
I'm trying to do an hour a week.
So anyway, that's from 10 to 12 on Thursday. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Oh, he doesn't.
Oh, I thought you said when you started that, I've known Jim.
No,
I've known each other a long time. You've kind of, I think, been in and out, and Jim's been nothing but real estate for as long as I knew.
Yeah.
And I would have thought
He
you
does.
knew.
Last week, we stood in the parking lot for 2 hours.
But